What is up, beautiful people? Just give me a second. Gonna turn these lights on. Pow! Pow! Alright, now, the reason for this video is purely to go over the end or the back end of that video that I did about the lessons I learned from Bridge. So, in reflection, while listening to that episode, I realized that it was very, very irresponsible of me as someone in this space, as someone who has somewhat of a platform, who has somewhat of a voice in the mental health self-development space. It was very irresponsible for me to end that episode, that video, that podcast the way that I did. So essentially what I did was I said this was my default setting. My one is when things get hard, when I get stressed out, I use all the anger that I harbor against myself. Self-loathing comes up, self-hate comes up, and then I say to myself, you're a piece of shit. And my default is, you should kill yourself. And that's where I left it. Very, very irresponsible of me to do that without providing some sort of insight into how I'm working through that or trying to overcome that. And so that's what I want to speak about today, is how I'm working through my default being you should kill yourself. Because since then I've had quite a few messages of people saying that's the same thing for me. Whenever life gets too hard, whenever I get too stressed out, I revert back to you should kill yourself. So how I'm working through it personally is obviously awareness and mindfulness is a huge part of any sort of transformation. But when it comes to the default of going directly to you should take your life, not staying in that space, in that headspace, in that thought or that loop, not staying in that for too long is essential. It's important, it's imperative, and that's going to determine whether you compound that and let that turn into something that eventually becomes an attempt or not. So for me, not staying in that thought, in that cycle is so important. And how I've worked on that over the last, well, let's say 3 years since I first attempted to take my life, and I guess the last 4 years. In the last 2 years since I was evacuated from Wheatstone for being suicidal, I've worked on that by implementing Wim Hof, of implementing meditation, while I read a book. Say I'm reading, I'll have a pen with me, and as I'm reading down the page, if I'm noticing that my mind's drifting from the story or whatever is written in this book, I'll just stroke the top of the page to bring my mind back to, oh wow, that's how often I'm drifting off. And as you go throughout the book, especially if it's a novel, one of those longer personal development books, you should see on the top, when you look at all the marks on the pages, you should see that slowly start to dwindle, and that's because you are cultivating more mindfulness, more self-awareness, more awareness. And in doing so, in cultivating that, becoming more mindful of what it is that you're thinking, what it is that you're allowing to come into your sphere, into your environment, your mental environment, the more you become aware of that, the better you get at pulling yourself away. And so the logical next step of that, after cultivating that mindfulness, is pulling yourself away from that thought, from that default setting of I want to kill myself or I want to take my life because XYZ. So the next logical step is immediately transitioning from that negative, destructive, toxic thought to one that is positive, one that is empowering, as Tony Versich would say. So going from that negative thought to a positive one, literally just swapping that out with an affirmation. Now, my ones are, I am, and this is one that I use for my daughter. I didn't realize that until now. I am strong, I am smart, I am beautiful, I am happy, I am kind, I am amazing, I am enough. And I will literally say that out loud, because you can think it in your head, but as soon as you speak it, that goes through your ears, that's processed as stimuli, and you have to take that on board. It's like having a third-person perspective. So that's one of mine. When I get nervous before I speak, I say I'm a gifted and confident public speaker. If my belief is waning in my ability to make one of these videos, do a podcast, speak in public, or anything to do with open up, my affirmation is I'm the one who will make mental health mainstream, and you just need to figure out what's right for you. So you will know what the trauma is or what the underlying belief is that's causing you to default straight to you need to take your life, you're not worthy, XYZ. And so you need to put that affirmation, make that an affirmation that takes you from that disempowered state to an empowered state. So something that is positive, that correlates to that limiting belief or that trauma or whatever it is that's making you default to something so negative, toxic, and destructive. From there, just let me read me notes. Yes, that was irresponsible of me. Now, in saying this, what I'm saying, this doesn't have to be the same for you. You can go and find whatever works for you. This is just me explaining what works for me personally. So please don't take this as gospel. Please don't take this as, if this doesn't work for me, then I'm fucked. Because you're not. You're a fucking amazing human being. You were 4 trillion to 1 odds to become a sperm that become a human being. So enjoy that shit. Enjoy the experience in this meat suit as you, because you're fucking amazing. But one of the things I've noticed that adds to my, letting myself get to that point where I default to take your life, kill yourself, you're a piece of shit, is unexpressed anger. So unexpressed anger, for me, I always thought I was a person who was calm, who was chilled out. Yeah, man, I'm so calm. Judging people who got angry, who expressed it. They don't know how to control themselves. I'm better than them. What I realized in the last couple of weeks is that I'm just someone who is good at suppressing anger, which isn't good at all. Because eventually, as we know from psychology and Sigmund Freud, when you suppress desire, emotion, anger, all that sort of stuff, it usually comes up as slips of tongue or, comes up through dreams. But mine comes up through being aggressive, being hostile, being short, having a short temper. And then because I'm expressing that towards other people, I get really upset at myself, disappointed in myself because I'm someone in the mental health space who is doing this sort of content. I get upset with myself, disappointed with myself, and I judge myself, and that turns into hate that I've suppressed, that I use against myself through self-loathing, self-hate, which obviously becomes, you're a piece of shit, you're not worthy, take your life. So very, very important, like I said, cultivating that awareness. That's only through like four or so years of me building that awareness through mindfulness practices that I could get to that point a couple of weeks ago where I could have that revelation and make that correlation and tie that all together and think, holy shit, I thought I was this calm, chill person, but really I'm just good at suppressing anger, which isn't good for me, the people that I love, or anyone that I come into contact with, especially while I'm doing these videos or podcasts. So once you have awareness, you build that mindfulness, you implement an affirmation so you can switch from a negative thought to a positive one, then you need to decide who you're going to speak to about that. Communication is key. Communication is so damn important. And I know most people are not going to want to speak to anyone, let alone their partner. So what I'd suggest is that you get started with journaling. Write down exactly what it is you're thinking. Do not judge what you're thinking. Just write it all down. If you were to read my journal, if you were to read the notes that I wrote him in the car yesterday while I was having a little cry, I think you'd be shocked, possibly traumatized, but that's what you need to do. You need to get it out authentically. You need to be raw. You need to be vulnerable, because if you can't be vulnerable with yourself, how are you going to be vulnerable with anyone else? And so in journaling, going through that process, you cultivate that ability to become vulnerable, that ability to trust yourself and what it is that you're expressing. And then from there, you choose who you're going to communicate to. For me, that is my partner. It's taken her a while to get to a place where she was comfortable holding me in that space, and that's understandable, because someone who is saying, I'm not worthy of life, I should just take my life, that's how shit I am, that's a hard position for anyone to be in, whether you're professional or not. So please be understanding of that. Please choose someone who you feel is ready emotionally, who is resilient enough mentally to hold you through that expression and that process. What works for me and my partner is what I journal, what I write down in my notes or in my journal or my diary, whatever. I will literally take time to write that. I'll give it to her. She will read it, and then she'll know exactly what it is that I'm thinking, what I'm feeling. That is so, so helpful, especially if you're someone who isn't comfortable or open to talking about it just yet. Then at least they know, then at least they're aware, and then they're not in the space where they're getting upset with you because you're acting differently, you're being negative, you're being toxic, and they have no idea why. So communication is very, very important. The next one, reaching out to support networks. For me, I've become comfortable enough within myself and vulnerable enough to reach out to people that I trust, people that I know would give me empathy and compassion, but who can also be upfront with me and tell me when I'm taking the piss. Very, very important. Reflection, acknowledging growth. One thing for me is I'm someone who doesn't take time to acknowledge myself, because I spent so much time in self-loathing, self-hate, self-sabotage, not being worthy of XYZ. I find it very hard to take time to acknowledge myself. So if you are in that space, it helps to have someone who you can communicate to, who can remind you of what it is that you've achieved, who it is that you've become since you've started on this self-development journey. Because obviously when you're in that space or when you're in that mindset, it's very hard to acknowledge your growth and acknowledge the delta you've covered from A to B, from when you started to now. Gratitude. Sorry guys, if you're listening to the podcast, I'm just reading my notes. Gratitude for the potential growth and unearthing of issues. So one of the most important things about being in that position, if you cultivate that awareness, or if you use a journal to help you, I guess, gain some sort of awareness in the moment or after you've expressed what it is that you're going through, it's very, very important that you make time to show gratitude, whether through a gratitude journal or speaking it aloud or even just thinking about it, for the potential growth that's going to come as a result of this moment. Because obviously something's triggered you, whether it's trauma from the past or whether it's something that someone's done. Something has triggered you to get to this point. That's why you're feeling like this, and therefore there is potential to grow by delving into that, by looking at it, bringing attention and awareness to it, working through it with intention to grow, and being grateful for that growth, for those lessons, for becoming better. Because I believe that is one of the key elements, one of the points, one of the objectives of being a human being is constantly progressing and getting better. If you're not growing, you're dying. That's it. What more can I say? If you ain't growing, you're dying. What else is there? Mission, coming back to mission, which is making mental health mainstream, prolonging the species on this planet, or prolonging the existence of the species. If you don't have a mission, if you don't have some sort of life purpose, delve into your being, delve into what it is that you love doing, and try to figure that out. Because when you are feeling that low, if you can have something that you can go to bring that back into your awareness, your field, something that is big, that is going to impact the world, that is going to impact and positively influence lives all over the goddamn planet, you'll find that you'll be able to pull yourself pretty damn quickly out of take your life, you're a piece of shit, to what do I need to do now to become the person that can achieve that mission, that objective, that goal, and to impact the planet. So damn powerful. God damn it. All right. Gratitude. So again, back to gratitude, and it's probably best that you write this in a journal. I just do that. I just write, I am grateful for every morning, and I'll just list off maybe 10 to 20 things that I'm grateful for. Some of them stay the same, some of them don't, but it's all about teaching yourself how to look for the positive. I think one of Richard Hawkins' books, maybe Transcendence or something like that, he talks about being in different emotional states and correlating that with being in different frequencies. So we know that the atoms vibrate. Every atom in our body vibrates or moves. So essentially we're just a big glob of energy. And, being in that gratitude frequency, gratitude state, we're going to attract that. And of course, teaching ourselves, creating new neural pathways that, I guess, look for something to be grateful for, so important. But in terms of gratitude, on this point, it's being grateful for who you have in your life, the support you have, the people you have in your life, how they make you feel, what it is that you love about them, what you enjoy about them. So for me, one of the most beautiful things in my life is my partner's eyes, my daughter's laugh and her smile, when my daughter sings to the baby, her baby sister in my partner's belly, the most beautiful thing in the whole wide world. And when my daughter says, "Daddy," those are my favorite things, and I'll list those all the time. So coming back to that, getting back to that gratitude frequency, gratitude state, and then ascending from there to love. So good. Now, being grateful for who I am and what I have. It's very easy to become complacent, to take things for granted. It's very easy to take people for granted, but it's so much easier to take the house that you live in, the clothes that you have. If you were homeless, you wouldn't have a home, you wouldn't have the clothes that you have, so you'd more than likely be cold. There'd be a lot of uncertainty. Bringing gratitude back to those small elements, again, building that neuroplasticity, the new neural pathways, and teaching yourself to search for what there is to be grateful for in every situation, in every moment of this goddamn existence. Now, I don't know if this has made sense. I don't know if I've kept on some sort of track, but I feel that it's very important that I put this out there, that I show you that, yes, I might default to you're a piece of shit, take your life, but I sure as hell don't stay there. I don't stay there because my daughters need me. My partner needs me. The people on this planet fucking need me. And I've convinced myself that I'm the one who's going to make mental health mainstream. So I need to be here. I need to be here on this planet. I cannot default to that or stay in that default setting. I've got to be back in here, back confident, with self-belief, with self-love, and with love, most importantly, for everyone else on the planet. If you have any questions, please feel free to message me, 0456 223345. That is my phone number. Message me, because if I see a random number pop up, I ain't answering that shit. But if you want to, please message me. I will tell you whatever I can, give you whatever tips, tools, or tactics I can to help you improve your life. Let's do it, fam.